haven't gotten the April figures yet from my usual reliable source. And now we're approaching the end of May. So I've been very curious about what April looks like. As you recall, last year, April was the crash month. And I'm just looking to see how we have progressed since then. So anyway, we'll deal with that toward the end of the meeting. I have some potential stats of interest to you from an NAR session that I attended, which I think may shed some light on where we are nationally. So Ryan, let me turn it over to you and talk to us about it from your side of the desk.
Sure. Yeah. So for those of you that don't know me, my name's Ryan Paquin. I'm the branch manager of First Home Mortgage in Crofton. I've been lending for 19 years. Next week will be my anniversary. I've been with the company, First Home, since May 23rd of 2006. So it'll be 15-year anniversary here coming up. And prior to that, I was a trader on the American Stock Exchange. So I have a background in finance. I really follow the capital markets, and it's intriguing what's going on right now. So I'll just give you a little what's going on. Obviously, you've heard inflationary fears are ticking up. And so cost of everything that, the gas pumps, grocery stores, everything is skyrocketing. And so interest rates are trying to trickle higher. Now, the reason why we're not seeing higher rates across the board is because the idea that stimulus, you have this $1.9 trillion plus stimulus package, is actually going to outweigh what inflation is going to do. So the actual stimulus is weighing greater on the markets than the actual cost of paying for that stimulus, which has never really happened. So rates are staying low. In fact, today we are seeing the market crash a little bit in terms of stock market, which means the bonds are doing well and yields are coming down. So we're sitting at about a 5-week, 6-week low on the interest rates today, which is nice. It's good for mortgages. So we anticipate that trend will continue. We'll see a kind of a sideways motion in rates. We're not going to see them trickling up until maybe the third or fourth quarter of the year, which is great for buying power. One of the things we do see coming is more demand, if that's possible. Now, when you think about stimulus, President Biden's always been a huge proponent of stimulating the housing market, even though we don't need that right now. We need sellers. We don't need more buyers. And so what he's doing is saying, hey, he's proposing a big tax credit. I'm sure you've heard of the big tax credit for first-time home buyers. There's a plan to have the housing finance agencies have an extra $20,000 to give out per person for down payment assistance passed down through agencies like the Maryland Mortgage Program, all kinds of stimulus to help people buy homes. Well, what's that going to do? That's going to get more people off the fence, out into the market wanting to buy homes. And that's not helping our inventory issue. It's actually going to compound the issue, in my opinion, I should say. And so I think we'll continue to see this trend through the summer into the fall until these, we don't even know when the stimulus is actually going to start hitting the market and how much of it's going to pass. We do know that rates are going to go up on investment properties and second homes. That's already been implemented. And for those of you that haven't heard, they're trying to take Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac private again. And in order to do so, they want to help mitigate some risk in the servicing portfolio. And they want to get the second homes and investment properties under 7% of the portfolio. And in order to do that, you have to deter people from borrowing money as an investment property or second home. So the only way to do that is to raise rates. So they're putting in pricing adjustments to increase the cost of mortgages for investments in second homes. Okay, so you've seen that passed through to borrowers here in the last 30 days or so, and the agencies are making that all loans that are bought in June. So that will be hitting, you know, when we sell our loans post-closing. So loans closing this month, we should really see increase in interest rates for those. So that will be the one deterrent for the demand issue. There should be less demand on second homes and investment properties, just because the cost might not be worth the purchase. So outside of that, we're looking at Maryland mortgage program at record levels. The Chenoa loans, which is an Indian reservation down payment assistance program, 100% FHA, record volume. We as a company have seen record volume in purchase business this year. The industry expects us to do about 30% more purchase business than we did last year, and have about the same volume, if not a tad more volume than last year, just because they do anticipate a little dip in refi business. If you want to follow, there's a guy through the Mortgage Market Guide, Rob Chrisman. He is a fantastic analyst, and he does a little blurb. I think it's every single day about what's going on in the markets daily. I pay attention to that. I also pay attention to what's the guy on CNBC that talks about the bond market. So that's where I get most of my information. And we have some economists at the corporate level that are just super bright guys that I try to pass along. If you don't get any of my video emails, want to just shoot me your email, I can certainly do that. I do market updates probably once every 2 weeks or so on what's going on with, just kind of like I'm doing today. Okay.
Good. Thanks, Ryan. Could you shoot us, make sure that you shoot maybe in the chat box your contact information so we have that. And if you have a link to this guy, Chrisman, could you put it in there? Because folks may be able to jot that down, as they're listening here.
Will do.
That would be helpful. Anything else you're seeing that sticks out for you?
No, outside of just, the inventory issues that you guys are seeing, we don't see any real relief from that. People are like, well, what if the foreclosures get, start hitting the market, or at least for forbearances? I think the number was 2.5% the last time I checked. The forbearance numbers have decreased every single month. So that's good news in that people aren't getting behind on their mortgages. Mortgage companies are working out modifications. But there is this thought that a bunch of foreclosures will hit the market here in September, and that should help the supply issue. There aren't that many homes in foreclosure. And if every single home hit the market at the same time, it would be like a speed bump. It would do nothing for our supply. So don't have this big anticipation that there's going to be a massive amount of foreclosures. It's going to take years for these foreclosures to hit the market, and it's just going to be at the same rate that we've seen over the previous years. I forget what that foreclosure rate is, but it's not much above that right now, what they anticipate anyway. So it's the same old tricks of the trade. Make sure that, we're removing. I got 14 contracts last week, and every single one of them had removed contingencies. They went over the asking price. They had no closing help, and they used a local lender, right? That's how we got them. That is the only thing I'm seeing. That and paying all transfers and allowing the sellers to stay in the home with a free rent back. Those are the little tricks that we're using to help the seller get a little bit more net when they accept our contract.
Back to that forbearance point. Last June, I believe it was, forbearance was at about 8.5% of the, according to Mortgage Bankers Association. It's down to about 4% now, right? Which means that the number is closer to 2 million.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
so I think Ryan's point is well taken here.
And they're expecting that to go to 2.5% by the end of the summer.
Right.
So
if we're waiting for that big boost to the market on foreclosed properties, it's probably not coming.
That's right.
A lot of folks have been asking me if they should take short sale classes and foreclosure classes. And while I advise you to be as educated as you possibly can in the business, I'm not seeing that as aha, you figure that we figured it out how to get more business, because it just won't be there to get, you know. But education is important. So get it, acquire certifications, all that stuff is valuable. What are we seeing in our local area from among the peanut gallery out here, other than and Ryan? Well, stuff is selling somehow.
Yeah. Where is inventory now?
Oh, wow. From county to county?
Yeah.
Yeah. As a whole, for the state of Maryland, inventory is down year over year. And last year was tough, right? It's down still about, well, it's creeping back up to 50% down.
Right.
So it is tough out there. It's tough out there. And I think as time goes on over the next couple of months, it's pay attention to when your managers or these Zoom sessions try to address some strategies that people are trying out there that are working. We're going to be putting together a session for, I believe it's June 2nd, where we just do some bullet point thoughts about what folks that are doing that are working. I've heard some ideas about, which I thought are pretty interesting, where a couple of our more engaged and more veteran agents are actually capping the amount of home repair costs that they will ask the seller to pay in exchange for at least having the peace of mind of a home inspection. That to me is valuable. I'm hearing about appraised value. I'm hearing about structuring offers. I think it was one of the points Jackie was making, structuring offers so that in part, perhaps it's the buyer who picks up a percentage of that commission on the buyer's agent side,
We're
So
seeing that.
go ahead. You're seeing that as well, Ryan?
Yeah,
So,
because we're seeing that a lot of the listing agents the sellers are just not wanting to pay the buyer's agent side as much.
right.
So, if it might be a 1.5%, 2.5%, 2% buyer side commission. And, we're seeing the clients getting passed on a 1% to 1.5%.
Yeah, I mean, recognize that right now this train is being driven by the seller. That's what we got, So as clever as we can be, as creative as we can be, of course, without compromising, everything in terms of our advice to our sellers, we still owe the fiduciary to the sellers to lay out the possibilities, have them make the choices, tell them what we have heard has been working and has been getting pieces through, and then be totally content with the fact that they may say, I'm passing on that. I just ain't doing that to get a house. I'll wait. The good news on waiting is that NAR is forecasting that by the end of the year, or maybe as early as the beginning of the fourth quarter, the amount of appreciation is going to drop from 9 and 10% down to a more, I would say, reasonable number of 5 to 6%, which may signal to sellers, okay, I didn't sell when it was at the top. We still have to sell. Appreciation over the last 50 years averages about 4.5%. If it's not the 12 it was last year or the 11 it was the year before, 6 is pretty good. It's still time to move the properties. That may be a boost to inventory. We'll see.
So
statistically, just quickly, 42% of the properties in Maryland in 2020 sold over the list price. 42% of all properties in the entire state of Maryland. We're still in that market. We're still in that market right now. I'm waiting for it to tick back. I'm waiting for the April numbers. I'm waiting for the May numbers to see that. right now, when we look at the Association of Realtors, and we look at the number of realtors, the number of realtors outnumber the amount of property for sale in the United States by almost 300,000 realtors. So that means that there's 1/8 of a house available for all the people that have licenses in the country. So we will get through this, but I don't think we'll get through this as quickly without creativity and without real attention to tips and to gaining as much knowledge as you can about how to navigate difficult transactions. That's what we're facing. Questions or thoughts from the audience? I really want to give you guys an opportunity to talk, besides me and Ryan.
Real quick, I will say one thing that Ron Howard introduced to me maybe a year and a half ago. If you're not using HomeBot, it's a phenomenal program that allows your client, so you provide them your database of past clients, and they will send them a monthly email, and the client has a login where they can play around with the value of their house, and it's sticky. Everything they touch, you get notified. So my last 10 notifications on my database are all, how can I prepare my home to maximize my list price? How's my neighborhood doing? Can I get a CMA? Do you know any buyers who would be interested in my home? And I get a text message every time, right? So it's relatively inexpensive. You have to pair with a lender. I'd be happy to pair with you if you want. If you have another loan officer, it's cheap for them to do. It's only $25 to connect you. And depending on your database size, kind of dictates that monthly cost. I think I have 3,000 clients in there, and mine cost me $600 a month. And it's well worth it. I've closed over 30 transactions since I got it in October, since I launched it in October.
I think that's www.homebot.com if you're interested.
I have a rep. His name is Grant. I can do an introduction if you guys are interested. Just shoot me an email if you're interested, and I'll copy him on an email and introduce you. He'll just show you a little tutorial on how it works, but it's a great little program. I've gotten rave reviews about the actual technology and the site itself. My financial advisor gets it from me, and he's like, can I share this with my clients? This is awesome. So, yeah.
Anything else from the group? We've got about a half hour almost. Sean?
As the legal pain in the neck, I just wanted to say, when you had mentioned about, George is laughing, when you mentioned about agents asking about getting savvy and taking the classes on short sales and foreclosures, just reminding, if any of us have conversations as managers, we should not, our agents, it's good to have the knowledge, but they should never handle the short sale themselves. And just reminding everybody that there are other options out there, but both of our ASAP partners in title can work through that and do that whole piece because of all the intricacies there that we shouldn't get involved in.
I think there's sometimes a tendency that we have, and you guys and the rest of the company need to dismiss this. When you need help, don't sit on it. Call for help. Ask. There are a lot of great minds in the company that are doing some very, very good things, whether they be middle producers, lower producers, or the higher people with big teams, right? We will try to help. So you don't have to do this alone. You don't have to go through this alone. And it's kind of a curse being an independent contractor. Don't overestimate what that means, at least in a company like RE/MAX Advantage Realty, right? That's simply a tax strategy, right? You're part of something bigger, and there are a lot of people here who will reach out. So don't be embarrassed. I get a feeling sometimes people get embarrassed about having to ask what they think is a stupid question. There are none now.
Right.
We are in a game-changing environment, and we will be until things normalize, which they always do on cycles. Right now, we're in an incredible seller cycle. It's simple.
Yeah, you're so right, John. And I'll just add too that years ago, before I joined this brokerage, I attempted my first short sale, and I did live through it. But I still have the dents here where I slam the car door into my head every day. And the thing is, once you realize that not only should we not, because we don't have the license or the means to talk on all the levels that people need to hear about in short sales, if you utilize a partner who does that and is good at it, it takes that concern or that fear of, if we do see this phenomenon come again and you simply engage one of our partners or somebody else, you're left to do nothing more than you're already trained and good at, and that is negotiating for your client with the buyer, not in the short sale. You turn that over to the people who can get it done. So it's really a blessing, like John said, to let go of some things and know you shouldn't try to master everything. You do what you do so well, let somebody handle those other pieces.
The other thing I suggest to folks is that as you have successes with strategies that have worked, you should take note of those strategies so that you begin to develop your almost own appendix of ideas and strategies that you used with one customer or another that worked. When we're on the spot, we tend to forget all the knowledge we have. So it is pretty good to develop an almanac, if you will, or a cheat sheet of that knowledge, and keep a record of your own strategies that worked in different transactions. I've heard more stories of folks who have just stopped me in the hallway when I've said the inevitable question that we always ask, how you doing? And then a half hour later, I find out that they have had some successes because they tried X, Y, or Z. I'm reminding you that when you do have those successes, make note of them for yourselves so that you can draw on that grab bag that you may have had. Won't work for everybody, but if it worked for one, it may work for others. That's like doing self-homework, doing self-homework. Any
John,
other thoughts? Yes, go ahead, George.
John, just to add into that, one of the things you're emphasizing that there are people here to help you and assist you. Think of it, we're all a team. All the agents, all the management, all the staff, we're all here to join in together and help you succeed. And we're getting back into, we're having more and more of the office type of meetings as this whole COVID epidemic is being lifted somewhat. That's a time for all of us to talk about some of these strategies. You as agents, when you're in part of these meetings, talk about some of the successes you've had. Others will share in that as well. And you'd be amazed what you learn from one another, as well as, our input is also, it really, really, really helps. It helps build some strategies.
Yeah. And I believe that company-wide, we'll probably be doing more of those in-group small gatherings live in offices. Also managers possibly running Zoom meetings. Our schedule is going to carry on with these monthly Zoom meetings once a week. We're going to lower it. Instead of doing 4 in a month for the summer months, we're going to drop it down for July and August to 3 sessions. But that's not to prevent different office managers from calling sessions together for people just to come in and talk. Those are valuable. And now that COVID is loosening up somewhat, we'll be able to have those opportunities more and more. So look for those in your own local office when the manager calls for a gathering for those kinds of powwows. You'll pick up stuff from those. There are very knowledgeable people in the company. So use each other. Ryan?
I was just going to say, if you guys have any clients that need closing help, I know it's impossible to get right now. So we're using the Maryland Mortgage Program's Grant Assist program. They get a 4% grant. It's forgiven the day of settlement. We can refinance them out of the higher rate in 6 months. So it's a way to, those clients that have limited funds to get into a property without asking for closing help.
Are there any income requirements on that, Ryan?
Yeah, there's income limits depending on the county
Okay.
and household size. Usually 120 grand max income for the entire household.
Okay, that's good to know. Good.
Yeah, and then there's also the Chenoa program, which gives you a net 3.5% on an FHA loan. So it provides your entire down payment.
Could you spell that program out?
CHENOA, Chenoa.
Chenoa, CHENOA.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
Yeah, it's 100% FHA. Rates in the 4s on that. But depending on the income, there is no income limit on that program, but there's different variations of the program. So if you are under a income limit, then the money is forgiven after a certain amount of years.
Okay. I saw Sean's hand popped up.
I was just going to ask too, are you finding, Ryan, are you doing much? I've had some success with this where somebody might not, and maybe you guys have too, might not qualify for the Maryland program, just going with rates being so low, just going above par and getting the lender bump on the closing credit. That's been working.
We are doing that as well, as long as they have their own down payment. That works.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
I'm just going to close with kind of a strategy that Jackie shared with me about a month ago. She had these buyers who were qualified up to 300,000, but that was their limit. They pretty much had to be at 300. And they were looking at properties that Jackie was telling them, Jackie, you can correct me if I'm wrong on any of this, that, you know, we might find it at your limit at 300, but you got to be paying 330 and you can't afford to do that, you know? So we need to take a deeper dive into what your maximum is going to be. So we need to look at properties at 275 and 270 and then be prepared to go up to 290 and 300 so that you get the house. When she did that, I think she turned the property over for these people in a week.
Yeah.
Jack, was that basically the story?
Yes. So what I did is that the area in which they were looking at, I went in and I looked at the stats going back as far as December, so I could predict what the increase of the pricing and the values were taking place, how much per month, because that's pretty much what's happening. So then once I realized what that increase was, I took what their maximum was, and then we went backwards. So they needed to look at about 270, 275 in order to compete and get a $300,000 house, because all those houses were going $25,000, $30,000 higher. And we were able to get in that when we did that, we wrote, it was about, I think it was 8, maybe 10 offers on the table, and we got it. Because we were actually able to compete by lowering the price range in which we were looking.
Right. The toughest market nationally in terms of inventory is 250 to 500. That's the most challenging market. You know, that market is down 20% from a year ago, and a year ago it was not pleasant. You know, so that's a real challenging market. So listings in in that price range are gold, and the houses do not have to be in perfect condition. They really don't, you know. Jack?
And John, what we also did is that on another deal that I did, instead of us going in so high, because I was very concerned about the appraisal, that we went in and we offered to pay $15,000 towards the seller's closing costs and commissions, to include commissions. And we got it.
That's the kind of thing that we're going to be rolling out at the June 2nd meeting, when hopefully we have more attendees. Just a shopping list of these kinds of ideas. Final thought I have before I ask Sean to jump in. Buyers who come to you and think they're going to get a deal are crazy. There's no deal. There is no deal, you know. So the motivation of the buyer, is it more important to get a deal or to get a house? That's really the soul talk that you have to have, conversation that you have to have with your buyer population, with whom you should have established rapport, friendship, trust, and confidence in order to be able to have that direct conversation, right? So it's still a relationship business, guys. And the stronger that is, and the more you're trusted and seen as the expert, the easier it is for you to have that conversation and deliver that news that there are no steals out there for buyers anymore. Sean?
I was just going to ask Ryan, I had one of the agents here told me, it's been probably as much as 2 months ago, that they had been advised that there was no 203K lending being done. Is that the case, or was somebody misinforming them?
Yeah, that's wrong.
Okay, because that's another option, and even those are getting swept up. But if you've got, like Jackie said, somebody in the 300,000 range, start showing them something in the $200,000 range that's been beat up and abused, that is in an otherwise area that would support a higher value, and consider doing the 203K. I thought that it was nonsense, and I think that she eventually did find another lender who would do it, but I couldn't understand the logic behind why they were being told it wasn't available.
Yeah, some lenders suspended the program when
Okay.
the pandemic began and never brought it back. So they like to tell people it doesn't exist anymore. But
But it does, and you can do it,
right. Just like when people say the Maryland mortgage program ran out of money,
right?
they don't run out of money.
You want to
right?
do it, yeah. Okay.
So yeah, we have both the conventional option through Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, and we have the FHA 203K for the renovation.
That's good to know too. You know, back down the price and the expectation, and with somebody who has the sense of humor and fortitude to go through it, partner up with somebody like you who can make it then ultimately the house that they would have never otherwise gotten.
Yeah, we're seeing the demand for those go up as well. Our renovation department is pretty busy. I mean, we're getting a few a month just on our team alone.
Good, good.
Okay, guys, I think we're wrapped. Anything else? I want to welcome Joe Rickard, Pat Wesley, and Aaron. Aaron is on. I don't see their faces, but come and join us some more. I think Joe joined the Baltimore City office, and she's somewhere. Patrick, can you hear me? Hey,
Yeah,
Joe.
loud and clear. Loud and
There you
clear.
go. Patrick, you there? Good. What office are you with, Patrick? Can you remind me?
I'm with the Greatest Moves team with Ron Howard and
you
everybody
go.
down on Thames Street.
Good. Thank you. Thank you. And Aaron is our office, for lack of a better term, one of our office managers who runs the show in Eldersburg. So Aaron, welcome aboard. I don't think the group has quite met her yet. I think I just gave you promotion by saying that. I don't know. So welcome, Aaron. Okay, guys, stay tuned for June the 2nd. Have a blessed Memorial Day. Be safe out there. Wear your mask where it's appropriate, and relax. We'll get through this.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Thank you, Ryan. Thanks again, buddy.
Bye-bye.
Take care.